Hello and welcome to Afghanistan News Today. Today is Monday, the 23rd of December 2024. Headlines of the news: UN, return of Afghan refugees from Iran must be voluntary. Donald Trump will rebuild parts of U.S. military damaged in Afghanistan. Interim government killed injured security forces members in 400-bed hospital after fall, says Saleh. Reopening of the Saudi embassy in Kabul. The Saudi embassy in Kabul has resumed its activities after 3 years. This move aims to provide services to the people of Afghanistan, and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the interim government has welcomed this decision. Interim government leaders order for pension payments. Hibatullah Akhundzada, the leader of the interim government, has issued an 8-point decree approving the payment of pensions to certain retired civil servants based on the ruling of a special court. This decision aims to address the situation of retirees. Release of Arzu television employees in Kabul. 7 employees of the private Arzu television network in Kabul were released after 2 weeks of detention upon providing written guarantees until the court session. However, the Kabul office of this television network is still not allowed to operate. Afghan women protest on Yalda night. A number of women in Afghanistan, despite the restrictions imposed by the interim government, celebrated Yalda night and turned it into a protest campaign against the existing restrictions. Interim government's efforts to prevent human trafficking to Iran. Interim government authorities in Nimroz province have held meetings to implement the leader's decree on preventing human trafficking. This effort is aimed at curbing human trafficking to Iran. European Union, human rights are a condition for recognizing the interim government. The EU Special Representative for Afghanistan has emphasized that respect for the rights of Afghan citizens and the fulfillment of international obligations by the interim government are conditions for the recognition of the group. Return of thousands of Afghan families. Over the past month, more than 3,800 Afghan families have returned to the country. This return is part of the recent developments in Afghanistan and its neighboring countries. Interim government imposes travel ban in Dak region of Nimroz. The interim government has imposed a travel ban in the Dak region of Nimroz province and issued a new decree to combat human trafficking. This action is part of the interim government's efforts to prevent human trafficking to Iran. Launch of nationwide polio vaccination campaign in 11 Afghan provinces. A nationwide polio vaccination campaign has begun in 11 Afghan provinces, targeting over 4 million children under the age of 5. This initiative aims to eradicate polio in the country. Concerns of the positive 7 group countries over ban on medical education for girls in Afghanistan. The countries of the positive 7 group have expressed concern over the ban on medical education for girls in Afghanistan and have called for the lifting of these restrictions. These countries stressed that education is essential for all members of society. The spokesperson for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, has emphasized that the return of Afghan refugees from Iran must be voluntary. Carolyn Gluck, UNHCR spokesperson, shared a video on Saturday, December 23rd, via X, formerly Twitter, reporting her visit to the Islam Kala border crossing. She stated, despite UNHCR's recommendation against returns last year, many refugees were forced to return. According to her, the number of returnees from Iran has significantly increased since September this year. Gluck reiterated, UNHCR's position is that any return must be voluntary, conducted safely, and with dignity. She also noted that despite challenges, UNHCR and its partners in Afghanistan are working to support the reintegration and rebuilding of lives for returnees. This comes as Esmail Momeni, Iran's Minister of Interior, recently stated that Iran can no longer accommodate undocumented Afghan migrants and has prioritized their deportation. In another report from Afghanistan News Today, Donald Trump will rebuild parts of U.S. military damaged in Afghanistan. Donald Trump, the president-elect of the United States, has stated that he will rebuild parts of the U.S. military that were damaged in Afghanistan. In his first major rally since winning the U.S. presidential election, Trump emphasized that a large portion of the rebuilt U.S. military was sent to Afghanistan, where it suffered significant damage. Speaking at the rally, held on Sunday, December 24th in Phoenix, Trump described the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan as a horrific display. He criticized the loss of billions of dollars worth of American equipment left behind in the country. Trump stated, "I rebuilt our entire military to a level it had never been before, but unfortunately, a significant portion of it was given to Afghanistan. Can you believe that? It's terrible. But we will rebuild those parts of our military that have been severely damaged. On top of that, we lost a lot of it. You know, when I first came in, we didn't even have ammunition." Can you believe it? During his speech, Trump addressed conflicts that he claimed should never have occurred. Alongside Russia, Ukraine, and Israel, he mentioned Afghanistan and described the U.S. withdrawal in August 2021 as a horrific display. He added, "We would never have witnessed the horrific display in Afghanistan. That was terrible, absolutely terrible. The way we withdrew, leaving behind billions of dollars in equipment and losing 13 soldiers. Nobody even mentions them, but I do because I love them, and now they're all watching us." 48 soldiers were horribly injured. Although Trump has yet to present a specific plan for Afghanistan or outline his approach to dealing with the interim government, he has already declared the Doha Agreement, signed by his previous administration with the interim government, as void. Shah Mahmood Aql, the former Deputy Minister of Defense of Afghanistan, commented, "Aid, whether overt or covert, provided to the interim government or Afghans may now face restrictions." The second issue is that Trump does not have a good relationship with the interim government. However, any changes will depend on regional and global developments. Previously, Trump announced that on the day of his inauguration as U.S. president, the resignation letters of all military officials involved in the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan must be on his desk. With less than a month left until Trump's inauguration, it remains to be seen what stance he will adopt regarding Afghanistan and the interim government. In a new report, interim government killed injured security forces members in 400-bed hospital after fall, says Saleh. After capturing Kabul in August 2021, the interim government killed wounded government security forces who were being treated in a 400-bed hospital and dumped their bodies in containers, Amrullah Saleh, former Afghan vice president, wrote. He claimed that the Red Cross had buried the bodies of the victims. The interim government entered Kabul on August 15, 2021, without a fight after former Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled and announced a general amnesty. However, reports from international organizations and former officials indicate that the interim government continued to take revenge on former military personnel. Saleh wrote on social platform X on Sunday that the interim government shot wounded soldiers in a 400-bed hospital just one day after entering Kabul. He added that an interim government official, in order to deflect responsibility for the crime, reported the discovery of a container full of bodies to the media. The opposition figure also claimed that about 1,200 people in Kunar and Nangarhar provinces were killed without trial between 2021 and 2022 by a person named Dr. Bashir, the interim government's provincial intelligence chief. Saleh also said that at the same time, the bodies of local soldiers were left in the alleys of Kandahar city. The interim government discarded the bodies simply because of the stench and the Red Cross buried them, he added. At the time, there were reports that the interim government had taken revenge on the Achakzai tribe, which belonged to Jen Razik, a well-known Kandahar police commander. According to these reports, hundreds of members of this tribe were killed by the interim government. Reliable news and human rights sources have not yet confirmed Saleh's claims about the deaths of wounded soldiers in the 400-bed hospital and the stench of the bodies of former soldiers in Kandahar. Amrullah Saleh also claimed that the drafters of the Doha Agreement prevented media coverage of these events in order to prevent the exposure of these crimes. Referring to the differences between the interim government's opponents, he said, "The damage and pain caused by the interim government's takeover has reached all corners of the country, but its severity is not the same." Saleh went on to emphasize that interim government leaders have no place among the people. If the vote is held tomorrow, many interim government leaders will not even get enough votes to be members of the provincial councils, he said. That's why they hate voting and elections. The interim government's opposition to the elections has no religious basis but stems from their awareness of the extent of people's hatred of them, he added. Thanks for being with Afghanistan News today. Till the next latest news, have a good time. Goodbye.